Hi.
Hello. In the last segment, Ray expressed his disappointment that when he had done these many hours of research about the use of phrases or references to preaching and witnessing in the four Gospels and the book of Acts, this elaborate research involving 12 pages on one subject and
The use of
27 different translations and how they rendered these famous proof texts. He was disappointed to see that the governing body didn't want to deal with the data, the scriptural data. In this segment, he deals with how they did deal with it, i.e. the individual responses of governing body members and how they're, although different from each other, entirely predictable in both the direction they take and the outcome, the collective outcome from the discussion.
So Ray continues. Instead, the discussion focused mainly on the use of the phrase house to house, found in the familiar two texts of the New World Translation of the Book of Acts. Lloyd Barry urged a return to the use of these texts to support the door-to-door work, pointing out that this is the way the organization has carried on the work down through the years. Leo Greenlees stressed that we must have an organized way for covering the territories. Every congregation divides up its local assigned area into territories of a few hundred homes each. Albert Schroeder read some quotations on the use of the Greek preposition kata, and also cited the examples of public witnessing done by the Lollards, followers of Wycliffe.
George Gangas said that the vast majority of persons who had come into the organization were contacted by going door to door. Carrie Barber spoke of the attitude of elders who question the scriptural basis for door-to-door work, saying that they evidently do not feel it necessary to be zealous in this work. He referred to Acts 20:21 as showing that Paul had talked to persons about repentance, arguing that this indicated that his house-to-house work referred to in verse 20 was done among strangers, not disciples. He cited the expression of one woman, a witness, who said of the door-to-door work, what am I doing out here if I don't have to preach?
Lyman Swingle said that evidently the one who wrote the proposed article wanted to have a command to go from door to door, something which he, Swingle, did not feel the scriptures warranted. Carl Klein stated that we are under obligation to use the best possible means for preaching, and cited the example of the man with the writer's inkhorn in the prophet Ezekiel's vision, and his putting a mark on the forehead of persons. He said that the brothers who discipline themselves and have love will go from house to house. Milton Henschel warned that some elders were saying that there is no scriptural backing for house-to-house work, and with considerable force he added that he himself was not in Ephesus, but Luke was, and that Luke stated that Paul went from house to house. Also, that our business is to make disciples, and the brothers should be encouraged to go from door to door. He suggested quoting some of the U.S. Supreme Court decisions that speak about the practice of going to homes of people uninvited as an age-old method of preaching.
Secretary-Treasurer Grant Suter said that if anything has been published detracting from the house-to-house work, then a special committee should be appointed to consider it. He said that there were a number of reports indicating that some witnesses were not carrying literature with them when they go from door to door. He said that there are a lot of people who would like to be Jehovah's Witnesses, but they don't like to witness, and that elders should not be of that kind. Lloyd Barry again spoke, quoting a Catholic priest's comment about the good example of Jehovah's Witnesses in going from door to door. He quoted a member of the branch committee in Panama as saying that house-to-house work is the very backbone of our worship. Leo Greenlees also spoke again, saying that most of the brothers are disorganized personally and would not do the work if the organization did not make arrangements for them.
This is very practical. All of the reasons are very practical.
A couple of the members want to make a scriptural argument, but they're kind of feeble arguments, especially this one about Acts 20:21. No, the context again demands that we take it as a reference to Paul's personal work in elders' homes, because the elders are the only ones present for that discussion in Acts 20. On page 221, the footnote deals with the argument that most people who become Jehovah's Witnesses come by this method. And George Gangas, according to Ray, one of the least vocal members of the governing body during those years, made this argument. But here's how Ray deals with that in the footnote. In reality, there is strong evidence that only a minority of witnesses became such as a result of a visit to their doors. I have asked groups of persons by what means they became witnesses, and in each case, out of perhaps a dozen persons, only one or two had first been interested through that means. The majority were interested by family members, workmates, acquaintances, and similar contacts. Reports by circuit overseers have presented similar evidence. One of the elders quoted in chapter 6, in his response to the society, stated, quote, "In more and more territories, it is possible to go from door to door for literally hours and talk to no one. It seems increasingly clear that most of the increase is coming from informal witnessing efforts rather than from door to door." That was a letter from one Worth Thornton. And I can say from my personal background, yes, almost all the people I know who were witnesses, who became witnesses during the period I did, came from informal witnessing. Myself was through a family friend, and then people, 10 or 12 people that I managed to bring into the organization were all through personal conversations and
your friends, right?
Friends talking to friends, etc., and bringing their girlfriends along.
Right. And in my case, I was raised a witness. And the studies I had, most of those were referrals or didn't become witnesses.
Yeah.
So
Only one person out of the dozen or so I'm responsible for introducing to the Watchtower was through a door-to-door contact. And I dare say it's worse today. That is, though during those years we were growing at a rate of 10 to 20% per year prior to 1975.
Yeah.
The numbers are static now for North America and most of the Western world, if not retreating. So it's probably that, like most churches, people are being replaced by their children.
Yeah. And I would think that door to door now, unless they're not doing it during the day, they're not going to find a lot of people.
No.
Because most people have 2 members of the family working, the children at school, so who are they going to be contacting?
In the next segment, Ray again goes back to the use of these traditional texts and analyzes the pragmatism of the Watchtower Governing Body members, I think exposing more than anything his personal disappointment at seeing how these decisions were being reached that would affect millions of lives.
Mm.